So hello everybody, on behalf of Innosuisse, this is the official Innosuisse pitch workshop. Happy to have you here. Before we introduce ourselves, we would like to introduce parts of the Innosuisse program. He is the founder who went through it. I'm the coach, and we're very active. The focus here on this slide is it's science-based startups mostly, yes, in all verticals. So Innosuisse really offers a broad program. And maybe if you see these rankings in Europe, there is one from Financial Times where Unternehmertum from Munich is the biggest program in Europe. I always say that Innosuisse is one of the biggest as well. It would be in the top three if they would go for it, because it's a 7-year program, and this is what we have to know. It normally starts for startups, and you did that. You started also in so-called trainings, yes? Maybe you know Venture Lab, Startup Campus, and others. So this is offered by Innosuisse. This is paid and organized with Innosuisse. And yeah, it starts with business ideas, and then module 1, 2, 3, so 1-2 years, and it's very good, and it's for free. Yes, you have to know that. And normally, once you have gone through module 3, or others come from other programs, then you come to the phase when you have a startup, you are in the founding process, and then the initial coaching is the first step into the coaching program, which could, 5 to 7 years. With some startups, or with you. It was one of the first startups I've coached. It's then here, it starts. Here it's a voucher of 10K. It also can be 5K normally. So, and then the goal here is to guide you through the next. This is the magic here, the core coaching. Yes, this is a voucher of 50K, more than 200 coaches. We also have unicorn founders there. So all verticals, we have a lot of know-how, industrial know-how. Most of those are also entrepreneurs, founders. They went through the whole process. And some of those, the ones who really scale internationally, then are in the scale-up coaching. What is important here, once you're here, you will also benefit from international programs such as Switzerland Global Enterprise with fairs, pick your fair, and also lead fairs, so such as Slush, Las Vegas, and others. Or you can go if you need to validate, is this a market for our startups? You can go with SwissNext to different continents. Yes, they work closely together. If you need to go to Japan, to Silicon Valley or others, you can validate, is this a market for our team? This is in the core coaching normally. Then they pick you, and they pay some part of this. So it's quite good. But we are here because we went from different perspectives through the whole way. Furthermore, and this is also the call to action, Innosuisse has a booth there. They also have some grants and opportunities in your fundraising strategy. You also went through it. One is the Startup Innovation Project. I also helped with other coaches to guide some startups through that program, but it's less than 10% get this, but there are many other grants, and so on. So this is the call to action. Please visit the booth of Innosuisse. They will give you the advice, which is your program, which is your grant, which is a fit for you. But this is the moment you come into the game, right?
I think like when often you hear those pitches, it's good to have like an overview, but it's really quick, like how to implement this. When you think about like the startup courses, you get the general knowledge, which is like more like the standard, how it's applied. With the coaching, you get like the individual side, where you really go deep dive in your market and your industry, that you know how to like really translate this to your startup. And in the end, this is actually a really cool tool. It's but highly competitive. So it's like a challenge to get it. But in the end, think about the value proposition when you have this grant already in your pocket. You approach an investor and you can say, hey, your investment actually gets tripled with this one. It's a really cool tool, but because it's so attractive, it's highly competitive. The only thing we can lose is the time investment for the application.
So, this is the Innosuisse part. Thank you very much for the invitation. And now we come to the pitch training. That's also why you are here. And we would like to introduce ourselves now. Here we go. That is me when I was young. This guy here. I was working as a journalist, radio, television, in Munich mostly, 14 years in Munich. I went through all the fuck-up stories as well, and I had some success stories as well as a founder. And then in 2018, I convinced my wife, she's from Munich, to come with me to Switzerland. I'm Swiss. And she said, I come with you if you do not found a company anymore. And I said, okay, I will do that. And I became also Innosuisse coach then, since 2019. And since then, I've coached, meanwhile, for Innosuisse, maybe 180 startups, and for all the programs, more than 300 startups, and more than 1,000 entrepreneurs in open trainings and workshops. And that's one of my hobbies. I love the mountains, and in 2017, I had the opportunity to climb Aconcagua. This is the highest mountain in Latin America. This was one of my highlights. It was also a fuck-up story because in 2014, we had to stop 200 meters beyond the summit because of avalanche risk. And from our mountain guide was Carrie Kobler then. This is one of the most experienced mountain guides in the world. And he decided to stop. And it's also, you can learn a lot from those guys as an entrepreneur. This is similar to startup story when you have to stop 200 meters beyond the summit.
From my side, I'm not such a mountaineer. I'm Philippe. This is only like a 1,500 meter hike. I'm not a mountaineer, as I said, but I like this picture a lot because it has a special meaning to me, because this was the origin where we actually made the handshake and say we incorporate our company. Like myself, I graduated from ETH. Afterwards, I went to corporate, where I said, just make money, big international global player. And I realized this is not the right fit, and I don't want to spend the rest of my life making this 9 to 5. So I quit, and it was on this hike, and it was Dave in the middle, where he just said, hey, I got the entrepreneurship grant. I'm looking for a co-founder. And I shook hands without actually knowing what I'm in for now. But this was 6 years ago, we're still around, so somehow it worked out. But sometimes it's also good to not know what you're actually going to do later. You will see it then in your startup journey yourself. But now we started the startup, as I said, in 2020. We started with the idea of a hyperscale, as everybody does. Now realized that our seed strategy was way smarter. And we had the break even last year, and this year we could double the team size from 6 to actually 15. So now we actually start to build some traction. But enough from the startup size, and what we actually do, we explain it a little bit during the pitch. And let's give you some tools, what you can do when you start and prepare a pitch. And I think the most important thing whenever you do a pitch is you need to sit down and think who you're pitching to. Because if I can now talk a lot about my startup, this is not of interest for you, you now need to know what actually you want to listen. And it's important, thinking about, especially this picture is also good learning for me. It was the Falling Wall pitch in Berlin, where it's more science-based and more vision-based. I came back with the classic venture capital, startup pitch guy Kawasaki, and this is a 3-minute TED Talk style. And I went there and it was in my opinion, way too modest. When they came and changed the world with a vision and a strategy, and everybody liked it, I came with an implementation, but it seems way too small. Regardless, I don't want to say they had amazing pitches, and I think in my case is anyways too small to actually compete on this stage. But it's super important to know who wants to hear what. And the other thing here, when you talk about practical implementation, whenever you do a startup pitch, all of us, we love our technology. Probably many of us, they started it, they like what they do. But think about when you have investors in your audience, what is the slide they look the most? It will be the business case and the financials, because there they feel comfy. It's really rare that somebody challenges you on your technology. It's super rare. And this is then the nerd that actually criticizes everybody about technology. This is normal. But think about it, to who do you pitch, what do you want to tell? and focus on this topic, because then you get also the resonance you need.
It's so important, and in the last weeks I had the chance to prepare startups for ZKB Pioneer Prize, the finalists, Venture Business Plan Competition, the finalists, HSG Startup Accelerator, the finalists, and I really saw it. 2 minutes in front of 350 people in Zurich, ZKB Pioneer Prize. It's hard. And out of 350 people, maybe 10 are ready to understand the technology, the other 340 not. So you have to translate it, and this is tough. But we will give you some tips how to do that. It's so important. One of the main tips is start high. We do not know if this is true, but I saw that once in a Microsoft keynote, and that even goldfish have a better attention rate that we humans have. But we can imagine that in times of a smartphone-dominated world, in times of where Netflix is faster and faster, it's more difficult for us to concentrate. And you have to imagine you pitch. We are also sometimes in juries, and you have a hard day in the evening, you come and you have to listen to 10 pitches. Boah. You are tired, and then 10 times complicated. No. You have to imagine, you have to also think about what to pitch that people understand it. So, how to do that? How to start? Examples. Deep Judge, top 3, top 100 Swiss startups, starts a pitch, or started, I saw it once, with the team. They started with, we're Deep Judge, we are 2 ex-Googles, we have a deep know-how in the legal industry, and we are much faster than all the others. Bold. But that's how they started. Nanli Landru from Oxara starts his pitch with a personal story. Hi, I'm Nanli. He started his journey in Western Africa, building clay houses, and until he was 16, he had no school education. And then his parents sent him to France, where he was able to visit school the first time in his life, and where he went through the whole school in 2 years. He studied, he came to ETH, made his PhD, and founded the ETH spin-off Oxara. And now he is back with an affordable housing project in Africa with Saviris. And so you see this story. It's coming from building clay houses, and he's back with his cement-free solution. So, personal story could be one start. One of the big exits in the last month was Next Think. And Vincent is also Innosuisse coach. And I asked him, what was your game changer in terms of storytelling in the fundraising process? They raised, I think, more than 300 million, and the exit was 3 billion. He said, the boring story was, we monitor and fix your computers and applications in real time. Bah. Once he said, we will end the need for IT help desk. He said something changed. We think big. And this we think big is something, and we know it, investors, they want you, VCs especially, want you to think big. If you go for a VC case, this is a story you need. Think big. And you need this game changer moment. So this is maybe also something you can integrate. Others, real examples, they had a hard pivot. Now they are on the way. They introduced themselves. I walked with Thomas at the Start Summit. We made some intros, and he said, we are the Duolingo for medical. Cool, it worked. Made them curious. Terenzi says, we are the Bloomberg for agriculture. And Diplo Tools says, we are the SAP for diplomats. Real cases. So, if you start, make them curious. Start with a hook, with a cliffhanger, personal story, game changer moment, big vision, or something clear that they remember you. After 10 pitches, you go maybe out and say, the Duolingo for medical, okay, I can remember. Think about it. It's just to inspire you, what real cases in Switzerland do. Then we come to the storytelling. The problem is the hook of every story. And this is so important. Seen too many cases, solution is looking for problem. And we need it the other way around. Fall in love with the problem and not the solution. So that means customer interviews, go out there, know more about the market. I've seen many cases, some of ETH, EPFL struggling with that. Too long not out there, too long working on the product and then realizing it's difficult. So one case, one story, how to really structure a 90-second pitch is Riemann Technologies. Think about the lack of specialists. In the next 10, 20 years, the baby boomers will retire, we run into big problems. Also in this industry company, Walter left the company, 65, he retired. The know-how is gone. The documentation was not done well. And Jonas is there, the device doesn't work anymore, Walter would fix it, he doesn't know how. What Riemann Technologies does is they digitize 20 years of Walter in 1 week with body cams and AI. And Jonas has everything on his smartphone, and he can ask the bot, can you help me? And then he answers with videos, with short answers, and he guides him through. So this is an easy pitch. It's more a sales pitch, not a pitch towards investors, but this is a level people understand out there. And it was hard. We worked hard on this one. At the beginning, it was more, we are an AI, SaaS, whatever, cause, and this is too complicated. Yes. Another rule, zoom out, zoom in.
Yes. Whenever you start a pitch, it's always good to set the context. And it's easy to start like with a kind of a reverse cone principle. So first, zoom out and say that it's from global importance, or depends what your case is, where you shoot for. You will see and notice that when you go out and you talk to customers or like people you want to solve something for, they will come up with problems, realizing like this is not like from a big importance. So really focus on the idea, that they come with a broad picture, that this is your case in. The second thing though is, when you have this, you need also to say, why is it important to solve now? Like thinking about when you judge a case, especially in early stages, like especially medtech, you have like the 3 I's that you often say, like the individuals, the IP, and the idea. And the idea also contains the timing where you want to implement this. So this needs to be a complete match to also match like the trends like of the market. And then, and this is actually the tool we want to give you there, make it something that people can grasp. In my case, like I'll focus, for example, on a process which is called tracheal intubation, which you probably never heard of. And then like it's saying like, how often is it done? You can say 50 minute times a year, 15% is difficult cases. It's really hard to grasp. But it's easy to say, during my 3-minute pitch, 15 people are struggling to place the tube or to save a patient. It's way easier to think about like breaking it down and seeing actually the scale of this problem. And then this is also a good transition to switch and zoom in. Because with the zooming in, you can explain how you target the problem and also how you personalize it. And here's actually the storytelling, here's the emotion. For example, when you have an app, it's easy to say, how do people get up? They look at their smartphone, they see this, and this is how they affect their life. And that makes like the transition that you can start to saying the problem is big enough, and people will use it, and people understand what you're actually talking about. With this is the perfect transition, and you like cut in the business case, or it depends where you pitch. But with this is the segue towards the storytelling.
Zoom in, zoom out. Why now? Use case. This is really a secret of a good pitch. And if you already have KPIs, this combination is so powerful. It's really, remember that, zoom out, zoom in, KPIs. That is powerful. If you zoom in, this is the moment where you can give us an understanding that you really understand your customers. We want to see that. And I'm struggling with so many startups I work with, that they think they know it, but they don't know it. they should go out there. They should really understand the customer needs, especially when we talk about B2B. It's sometimes so difficult. And also to show the real problem. Bo Robotics won the Venture Business Prize competition, business plan competition 24, the grand prize. And the CEO of Georg Fischer said, why? Because they solve a big problem. And this is one slide that shows they solve a big problem. Yes, a real problem. This is the competition, geothermal drilling. And with these devices, you can't drill in cities where it's narrow. You can't even drill in garages. And this is the size of Bo Robotics. It's not all you see here, but this is the size. You can drill in garages. And this picture alone shows this context, this contrast. And if you talk about a real problem, you have to explain us what was before, what is the contrast, what did go wrong, and what is now, what is really better. And sometimes think about, I'm not a medtech specialist, and maybe I do not know your target group because I'm not a medical or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I have to really, you have to explain it to me that you give me some context. For instance, if you pitch SIGTIC or other events or broader events, you need to explain it. You need to give us this context, this contrast. So important.
Yeah, like from my experience, like I remember when we started pitching, we often neglected what we actually do. And the first competition we really won there was because one of the jury members had a case in his family where they had problems with it. And this realizes that the context and really showing out the real problem gives you a way stronger start and more oomph to your case. Because, for example, if I would explain our fintech problem and nobody here works in fintech, it doesn't affect you.
So translated. Another case I work with, by the way, I asked all the startups to show that. That's very important. It's Energio, and it's quite interesting with their solution. They change, the old world is diesel generators, and with their new solution, you see the maintenance. And we really thought about how to visualize this. And this is one way, really, to show, okay, maintenance here is tough, and it's not very efficient, and that's how Energio saves time. And one slide, and this is, by the way, I'm allowed to say it is part of a Series A pitch they sent also. This is one slide. They have different others, but you need to visualize it in a strong way in some moments, yes? So you see it. Because on the other side, there are the investors, such as VI partners. And Cyril Osterwalder said at the UBS Innovation Forum last year, they either invest in startups, they solve a new problem, smartphone, or an existing problem 10 times better. So I really challenged the startups on this 10 times better. I know it's early. If it's early, it's difficult. But are you on the way to solve it 10 times better or 2 times better or whatever, yes? So because we need to show it is a real problem, yes? And the real problem is not, this is boring. The printer cartridge is empty, but I hear too many boring stories. What could be the story behind the printer cartridge is empty? So this is an emotional one. You have to print a bachelor thesis in an hour. And I know many people then, what is the skin? Because this is tough. My task for you is find these nuggets behind these problem stories. That also show us that you understand your customers. Yes, really bring anecdotes. Anecdotes are the nuggets of storytelling. But the anecdotes, sometimes it's difficult to get them, right?
Yes, like the big thing which we face the most, especially with startup pitches from the academic sector, is that they overcomplicate the case. They spend their whole life within a specific field, and when they talk to you, they're like 5 levels ahead, and they want to explain like what's interesting for them. And the idea is that you really, like the KISS principle, keep it stupid and simple. And really, this is, I think, where you can like cut the fat from many pitches and make it more effective. to make it easier. Don't over-explain it. It should be a situation where you, like the beer rule is like the idea, you talk to people next to a beer, like having a beer, it's nothing scientific, no big slides. It's an easy message to bring over. And this is also what Stefan just told me before, that when he has a pitch training and the people pitch, and afterwards they walk from the room into like the lunch place, they explain it way easier and understandable, but instead of this formal setting. So don't think about to seem highly professional, just make it understandable that a pitch is to grab attention, and the follow-up is the one where you go in details.
So important.
And this is actually my my favorite example. It's actually from NASA. And the idea is like thinking you want to explain NASA, what's the mission statement, what do they do? And this is actually like the thing I copied from their homepage. But in the end, try to simplify this down. And especially when you look back and where like a scenarios actually went, is that, for example, when Kennedy explained the mission, he just broke it down and really said, we're going to choose to go to the moon. And this is understandable. It's actually a famous speech. You can also look it up on Wikipedia. But the simplification makes the case more graspable. And as a side note, think about to have this anyways, a company vision and mission in place. So also your employees and all the team members, when in doubt, just go with this phrase and they know where you're actually working towards. So you have like no big misalignment and you work more effectively. But this is an easy breakdown, even though it's like highly complicated and important also to see here, nobody cares about the technology. This is really just the value and where they want to go towards. And when you go further, you can hit like your buzzwords, you can go further. Like if you need a trend, you want to use them, but really be sparse with this within a pitch. You can use them, but often they're overused, so use it with caution.
Andreas Goeldi said just at the start, Founders Day, Startup Association, that one of his most successful startups, an AI startup, uses in the pitch of 3 minutes no AI word. Think about it.
Yeah. Comes to like overloading slides. Whenever you present, it's cool when you're like a techie and you love to show like your technology and what you do, but it's too much. Keep it simple. This also, we go a little bit more on this later, but think about it. What do the people want to hear? What do you like convey? This is too much information. Here's a quick side note. You need to differentiate between pitch decks you send out and pitch decks you present. Like this wouldn't be a slide to present. It was a little bit a nothing statement, but really famous. Steve Jobs could pull it off. But on the other side, try to give like the necessary information like when you send it out, but keep it, talk more when you present. And sometimes pictures say more than words. And here, when you have the chance to show it, I love to use pictures because here it's in 1 second, like you look at it, you understand what they do, instead of starting over-explaining it with words and gestures. When you have the chance and hardware, go for it. Software, I know it's trickier, but with hardware, just show it, show videos, give the emotion. It's way quicker understandable than like trying to explain it and with words. And next thing, to not overload slides. It's a good rule when presenting. To use actually like the classic, the Dreischlag, like 3 words. And here the caveat is, when you present them, I would always recommend start with the medium strong argument, the lowest and then the strongest in the end. And what I like to do is use animations in my slides, because then it also has a nice flow. When you send out the pitch deck, I would actually change the idea where the strongest statement needs to be on top. Because often when people fly over the pitch deck, they don't spend a lot of time. Especially looking at VCs, which are really, like, they're proud to say, I screened 1,000 pitch decks within a year, or like 10,000. But when you now start breaking it down, how much time is spent per pitch deck, the quality decreases. So this needs to be the strongest one, need to like flash in the eyes. Otherwise, it's neglected when you start with the medium. And this brings us like to the Steve Jobs like statement. It's font size 30 points, like go big with fonts. It has 2 advantages. First of all, everybody can read it in the room. Like Guy Kawasaki said, you should have like the age of the oldest participants divided by 2, whatever. But what I say is, it helps to keep the message clean. You cannot write this slide full with 30 points. So really go big, then you have less statements on the slide, people focus on you and you can explain.
I saw at Startup Nights or many other events, if you have font size 10, wow, it's horrible. You sit 150 meters away or 100 meters away and you have font size 10, it's lost. It's a lost chance. Really, and to be honest, prepared many startups for all the competitions in Switzerland, and mostly, not every time, but mostly the winners have really reduced slides. It's like this. I want to encourage you to go the way.
Yeah, like, again, make 2 slides, presentation slides, slide you send out.
Yes.
And the other thing you see more and more, so the AI-generated decks, and people will notice this soon when they go over it, and then you also say like, yeah, you devalue it right away. Go simple, make it yourself. You can help it to design, but less is more.
Definitely.
Viability in market, and now comes actually like the caveat. Like thinking about it, you made your case. Like people say like it's a problem, they like you, everything's cool. But now it's they say, yeah, how do you actually want to make the money out of it? And the idea is the following: first, you start to say where do you scale into. This is an easy idea. You have 2 approaches. You can bottom up or top down. This is a bottom up approach where, like this is Borough Robotics, where they scaled like for one city. They say the population, they say how many boreholes, and say like how much potential is in there. It's the easy way to start. You set the scene, the big picture, like the market is like the thumb. Then the next is like this is another approach. You go top down. You just say, hey, this is actually the whole population of dogs and cats, and there is scaling to. But and now comes a really big part. This is not done with this. Because what's classically done in pitches, then they say, yeah, we get 5% of this and everything's fine. Yeah, if I get 5% of Google, like I'm also fine, but like it's not working. And now comes the viability, where I say, how do you really translate your startup and your resources into this market, and how much can you scale it in? How big do you want to believe in this? Thinking about, you have a market of Google or whatever, you have 10 people, how much can you really grab of this? Within which time frame? And this is actually an investment case and reflected in your business case. And there, in the end, it's all about money, unfortunately, like fortunately or unfortunately, it depends. But even if you make like a startup which is really focused for like health tech, which is like good for the world, it needs to make money that people work on it. So don't feel ashamed to also make like put on prices that people benefit from it, because otherwise also like the best intention rarely go to the market.
And it's so important to show what are our first 5 customers, our first 50 customers, our first 100 customers, if you already have them. What, and before, it's also the traction, it's also paid pilots, for instance. Yes, there are signals from the market in your MVP phase that you really get signals from the market. I know that from many pitches, when we don't get strong signals from the market, we are far away from product market fit. And it's not all the times a pivot. It's then maybe some little things we had to adjust, or we have to think about a pivot sometimes. It's startup life. But these signals, do not lie on yourself. It's hard. I know it myself. I had a pivot, a tough one in 2008. So it was a horrible year, but you can imagine you have to be true to yourself. And then you have to really, because when you see the difference between startups who think, yeah, it's kind of, we have product market fit, and then it's coming in a little bit. But product market fit means you get referrals, they love it working with you, you feel it. You have to come to this moment when you feel it. And Wingtra is one. Once you feel it, then you can show what you have. But this is one of the examples of the very successful examples in Switzerland. When you are in an early phase, please come with things like, if you are not allowed to name the 3 automotives you work with, say at least we work for 3 of the biggest automotive companies in the world. At least something like this, yes? Give us signals. Zoom in again. Say us how it is, yes? Show this traction. It's not only traction, it's also these little true stories, they give us a feeling about, okay, they really fix something, yes? Combine it, and now we come to these real, true success stories, make short versions out of that they really show that you're on the way in the market, and that you have one customer, the next is waiting, you get referrals, and so on. This is so important. If you are earlier paid pilots, if you are earlier all signals. Some of the founders I realized, and before I was in the investors pitched, not all of them very good, but nevertheless, it was interesting. Most of them said, we invest in the team at the beginning, yes. So that means, I have some founders that say, I had in the last 3 months 50 calls with potential customers. This shows they go for it. This is also a signal. If you wait in your room, solution is looking for problem, it's not the way. This is also, yesterday evening I had a short talk to a scale-up investor, and he also said, hey, this is the missing piece in Switzerland. In Grand Paradise, Switzerland, you can keep 3 years, you get 3 million, but we should go out earlier. This is something some people criticize in our system. In some cases, okay, and some other things are also important. But the team, as you said, so important.
Yes. Like already teasered beforehand, we start whenever you pitch, you see like early stage startups is the idea, the individuals and the IP. And the individuals is really, you need to show that you can also translate what you actually promise to the market out. And often like when you have the team, the big challenge is, how do you pat your shoulders without seeming arrogant? Because you also want to say that you're competent and not. And I want to just give you like this tool, which helps a lot. Sometimes when you pitch, especially as Swiss, I feel uncomfortable always like bragging about what we do. But the idea is you make like a way with the introduction that you can pat your shoulder the most without seeming arrogant. And the idea is the following. You start with we. You actually address the team. You say something. Our team brings the diverse background to solve this problem. You go to they, and then you can always like uplift everybody else and say like they're amazing, and there you like over exaggerate where you say, for example, David worked in innovation management for 5 years. He brought like some other green tech startups out and has experience with medtech for 2 years, and it's an easy one where you like hype them up, and then after this hyping up, you can also pat your own shoulder and say, like, myself, I got nominated there and there, I won those challenges, I bring this competence into the market. And to round it up, you go back to the we and say, like, we work harmonized together and we overcome this and this and this challenge. And this is a round approach, which I like to do when I do like pitches, that you don't seem like too arrogant, like you pat your team like too high, because everybody saw the team and said, why are you doing this? And it's like, because we're the best and nobody else can do it. Depends. Like in America, maybe you can pull it off. In Switzerland, I wouldn't do it.
And that's the point. And it's also very important that you really show the logos of your background, that you show the diversity of skills. Look, Lukas Weder from Founderful just said in a pre-seed seed phase, we invest in team, and vision. Yes, so you see, it's the team. So this is a very important one. And really go for it. And what they want to see that you are resilient to go through this process, because I heard before, and I think it's not true this morning, that it's now easy. Everybody should found an AI startup. And the missing piece was it's a tough way, even for all these people founding an AI startup. Sorry to say that, but it is kind of the next book, sitting under palms and having an own startup. This is not the way. For those who were part of this keynote, I'm not. No, it's not truth. It's a hard way, and most of you know it. Maybe I know some founders here, and it's different. But this is, and we also have others here. It's really resilience. It's to pivot. It's hard. This is really the moment they invest in you when they think they could pivot. They really could go for another because they have the energy. So this is something I want to feel here, yes, when you see the team. Then, clear call to action. Yes, what do you want? Do you want to get my money? Or do you want to get 1 million in a seed round, or 5 or 10 million in a Series A, or 40 million in a Series B round? Or are you looking for some co-founders? Or what is your call to action? Or are you on a demo day or in a competition pitch? Day 1 here last year or at ETH Boost, public voting, and they ended before they showed a real picture of the team on this bridge, and then they showed this. People laughed in the room, and then sympathetic last moment, they voted. Think about the call to action at the end, yes? It's so important. And be clear, 10 call to actions, because I know you want to have a lot of things. But, and that brings us back to the audience.
Yes, and this is again like it wraps up like the whole like 10 golden rules easily, because if you don't have a call to action, I would ask myself, why do I actually go there and do this effort? The day has 24 hours, you have enough other jobs to do. Be selective where I do this.
So, if you have any questions, we had now, I know it wasn't so interactive, but we are here and we have a lot of experience. So please ask now or ask afterwards on LinkedIn. But we are here, we have some time left. We can also extend it a little bit. But lunch is waiting. Nevertheless, ask if you have any questions. It's totally okay. And we, no, and we prepared something, a short session, but we have 1.5 minutes left, and no. Or would you?
Like it depends. Like
Yes.
who wants to go to who's in for lunch and who wants to do the session? Like.
Good. So please prepare. Think about a short 30 seconds elevator pitch, and present it to your neighbor. You too. You too. Tough one. It would have been better to say it before. But it's a good. Think about these one-liners. This "we are the Duolingo for medical" or a personal story, because I realized the personal stories really helps. It's you can do it if you are hungry already and now starving. Suddenly, you also can. No, it's totally okay. Yes. No. But yeah, go for it. And you can share it with us.
Yes. Ja,